Good afternoon, everyone, and a big warm welcome to you all here to Ascot Racecourse today. I hope you've been having a very enjoyable day, and I'm delighted to have been asked to talk to you all this afternoon. So I'm going to speak to you a bit about Ascot Racecourse, its past, its present and future. I'll talk to you a bit about myself and where I have come from. I'm just checking that's working. Some heritage and facts, property and development here at the racecourse, and give you some insight into some of the things that we do. I'll then talk to you about the Ascot Centre development brief, which is a project that I've been working on over the last couple of years since I started here at the racecourse, and then we'll have some Q&A at the end. Right, in terms of just a little bit of background information about myself. So I absolutely love buildings and everything about it. For me, that love of construction and development started at a very young age. I used to, this is going to sound very cliched, but I used to love building Lego houses as a kid. Did so every morning on my way to school. So it was something that, was always going to be an area of, personal progression and development in my career. In my early years, we lived in Malaysia for a while, so I grew up in this culture and also in the Far East, so I had an appreciation of how different environments influence people around them, and how the interactions have such an impact on people's lives. So I always wanted to be part of something like that. So I decided to pursue a career in property. So I basically started as a building surveyor working in London, and then I moved quickly into project management and then master planning and development. So for me, in the last 17 years or so, I've been involved in some big infrastructure and development schemes across London. So just to give you a bit of a flavour, so I've got Capital Way on the left-hand side there, which is a mixed-use resi-led scheme with 5 blocks of development. So I was involved in the first 2 phases for the social housing element of that. Then the tower in the middle there is a Barratt scheme, where I was the Access consultant for that scheme. To the top right-hand corner is a Romford Leisure Development Scheme, and again that was a very interesting project because it from a structural engineering perspective, we've got a Olympic-sized swimming pool, and above that a ice rink. So learnt an awful lot in that project about good engineering design. And then the scheme below that is West Hendon, which is a 2,000 unit mixed-use residential-led scheme. So for me, coming from consultancy side and then moving across into Ascot was always something that interested me in terms of where my next steps would take me. This project is the Thames Tideway tunnel project. I don't know if anyone here has been involved in it in any way, shape or form, but I spent 3 years as a consultant working to deliver the DCO planning application. So I was involved in the planning for basically identifying all the land interests across London. We had something like 54,000 of them, so it was no small task. And ultimately, it was to determine who would be impacted by the scheme, and then would need to be part of the consultation process, and then who would also need to be compensated through the acquisition of land. So that was a really interesting project. So moving on, introduction to Ascot and my responsibilities. So I joined here back in January 2017 as head of capital projects and estate development. So my role is focused predominantly on strategic planning for the racecourse, to make sure that we protect our fixed assets and we generate revenue from that, but also to deliver new experiences predominantly for our racegoers, but also for our C&E business, which has grown over the last several years. We have around 70 properties in our portfolio across a 179-acre estate, which is owned by the Crown Estate, so we have the head lease with them. My responsibilities on a day-to-day is to deliver and manage capital projects for the business. So we have £5 million capex investment that we will put back into the business every year. So I don't know if anyone here has been coming to the racecourse since the new grandstand was built. Any show of hands? Yeah. So in that time, you would have seen, from the day that the grandstand was initially built to how it is today, we've had a real push and drive, which has very much been driven by our COO to soften the landscape and actually make it a beautiful environment for all who come here. So it's a really, really interesting and dynamic place to work, and we do have a really good solid team that sit with us of around 200 odd people that are our full-time staff. Within my team, there's myself and one other colleague who deals with the asset and property management side of life, and then Adrian Tucker, who is sat in the audience here, who you'll meet later for the tour if you take it, who looks after the facilities management. And I think, Adrian, you have something like 24 people in the team who look after the estate on a day-to-day basis, making sure that not only the buildings are maintained and looked after, but also to provide support for us on race days. So the role is pretty big and diverse. Okay, so I was just going to give you a bit of an background in terms of the heritage of the racecourse. So back in 1711, Queen Anne had seen the potential for a racecourse here, and saw it as an ideal place for horses to gallop at a full stretch. So she instructed Sir William Wyndham to clear the heath and make way for a new racecourse here. So the first race day took place in 1768, which was a 4-day race. These days we have a 5-day Royal Ascot annual meet, as you will all know. And in 1793, the first permanent building and grandstand was constructed, which held 1,650 people. So, that from where we are today, I think we hold something like, I want to say 40,000 people. So it's grown significantly over time, and obviously the uptake has grown with it. So in the 19th and 20th century, in 1813, the Ascot Authority was established by an Act of Parliament, and Her Majesty's representative became the senior trustee of the authority, and our current monarch retains that title to this day. In 1839, a further grandstand was constructed, and then in 1961, a new grandstand was built, which took 11 months, 550 workers, and cost £1 million. And then in 2004, the last meeting took place in the grandstand before the one that we are now sitting in today. In 2016, we had a very, very quick turnaround to deliver, basically demolish and build a new grandstand, which opened in 2017. The difference between that and obviously 1961 was that cost us about £210 million. And that included quite a lot of value engineering for us to enable us to achieve what we have today. 2017, very important for the ladies, we had jumpsuits added to the dress code, and again, we are continually progressing and developing the offering that we have for Royal Ascot and indeed all of our other race days. So in 1954, the new mile course was built. 1961, as said earlier, the grandstand was built. In 1964, the members' stand was built, and in 1976 we had the new stables and hostel complex, which still stands to this day, and it sits down south of the High Street for stabling 140 horses who will come here either on the morning of a race day, or they will come sometimes the day before, depending upon when they're travelling, because obviously it's an international racing venue, so we have to accommodate quite a lot of people and horses here for each of our days. In 1987, £1.5 million was spent on renovating the Royal Enclosure, and again, year on year, we're always improving that offering to our Royal Enclosure members. In 1990, a rebuilding programme was undertaken to the Tattersall's Grandstand, which was launched, giving us new bars and rooms, and also the Queen Anne office was open. So when you came into through the box holders entrance this morning, the building immediately to your right is the place where the core team of the racecourse actually work out of on a day-to-day basis. Okay. So a bit of facts and figures. So the Queen has attended every single race day since her coronation in 1953. She's an avid racegoer, as most of you might know. We have 26 race days here every year. We have 18 flat races and 8 jump races throughout the season. We host 13 of 36 British-based Group 1 flat races, which generates 13.45 million in prize money on an annual basis. And continued investment is at the heart of everything we do. So as an organisation, we're continually reinvesting and improving and making the customer experience better. And that is very much at the core of our business. We turn over around 90 million on an annual basis, and we attract around 630,000 guests here to the racecourse every year. We have, as I said earlier, we have around 200 full-time members of staff. Okay. So in terms of our brand values, elegant, uplifting and original are the brands by which we live and work by. I've just put those up there so you can just have a quick look at them. Okay. And as an organisation, we undertake a lot of charity work. We have raised over 1.5 million for the Prince's Countryside Fund since it was set up in 2014, and we're active both locally in the Berkshire area and wider charities to ensure that we are supporting our local community in all manner of things. So it's really a great place to work, and I'm not just saying that because I'm standing here talking to you today, but it's the giving back and the corporate social responsibility is very important to us as an organisation. Okay, so I'm just going to move on to our property portfolio. So I mentioned to you earlier that we have around 70 properties within our portfolio. They comprise of our business critical, i.e. those that support our day-to-day activities for racing. So it would be the grandstand, the pavilion building, the stables, the owners and trainers building. Obviously, the people that are very important to us, they're the people that bring their horses here to race each year, and the hostel and the stables. The ancillary buildings that support that, so all of our storage and the like, which we need in order to then bring out and set up for our race days. Then we have our commercial let properties, some of which are along the high street. We've got a couple of nurseries. Residential properties, again, we have a number of residential properties located off the high street, which we manage, and then we have a number of staff houses predominantly located within our site. Okay, and then moving on to the master plan and regeneration scheme. So Ascot Centre was identified by the neighbourhood plan as an area for development, and land north and south of the high street was identified for that development to take place. As most of you will know, Ascot is in the borough of Windsor and Maidenhead. The neighbourhood plan policy document was adopted by the council, and within that there's a requirement to bring forward a development brief. So we, as an organisation, got together with partners who are the landowners south of the high street. I'll show you the slides in a minute, to bring forward and realise the aspirations of the local neighbourhood and community to bring forward meaningful development for Ascot. So up here I've put together, I've put up our vision statement, which was a culmination of work which was undertaken by representation from the parish council, from our stakeholder group, from the local borough council and the Prince's Foundation. So I'll just read it out to you because it's the heart of what we're doing, and in terms of the next slides I'll be setting out. So the rejuvenation of Ascot High Street provides an exciting opportunity to deliver the aspirations of local people as presented in the work of the Prince's Foundation. The vision is to enhance the high street and turn Ascot into a focus for the community with a vibrant, dynamic daytime and nighttime economy, and provide community facilities, a local village square and green space to the south of the two-sided high street, which will have a range of small units suited to independents. Key to the improvements in the efficient flow of traffic is ensuring that parking is improved and that new streets provide safe and accessible pedestrian and cycle routes, particularly east and west routes parallel to the high street. To enable this rejuvenation, a high-quality development of new homes will be provided, reflecting good local examples of architecture that responds well to the green and leafy character of Ascot. Okay, so the Princess Foundation was approached by the Neighbourhood Plan Group back in 2012, and this predates the time when Ascot then, as an organisation, became involved in this project. A report was produced by the Princess Foundation, which culminated from a set of workshops with the local community, which basically had the premise to determine what people wanted to see in Ascot and the local area. And they came up with four areas for where they wanted to see improvements. These were improvements to the high street and to the local economy, improved transport and infrastructure, and I'll say to you, on a day-to-day basis, we have something like 18,000 cars that will travel through Ascot on a daily basis across, basically through the high street, because it's seen as a cut-through from Bracknell across to the A30, to improve community amenities and to provide housing. So Ascot as a centre is defined by two roundabouts, one to the west at Station Hill and one to the east at the Winkfield roundabout. And the proposed development area as part of the consortium group includes our Car Park 6, which is owned by Ascot and the Crown Estate through our lease, Car Park 5 and Car Park 5A, both of which are south of the High Street and both of which are in Greenbelt. Okay. So this just gives you an indication. So Car Park 6 on the north, Car Park 5 and Car Park 5A to the south. Okay. So what we wanted to achieve from our development brief was to look at improving the movement of traffic, to improve car parking. As a racecourse, you know, we allow people to park in our Car Park 3. As it stands, there's lots of parking on the high street, but with that comes traffic slowing down in essence, because it means that people are reversing into parallel parking bays. So we're trying to improve upon that, improve the experience for pedestrians and to enable people to move both north and south of the high street. Where Car Park 5 is, there's a section there where actually there is no pedestrian access along there, so we want to make it safer for people. We want to attract small independents and cafes and restaurants to enable there to be a mix of both daytime and nighttime economy. If any of you have walked down the high street, you know there's lots of cafes and the odd restaurant and a couple of bars, but the reality is that, you know, the majority of people will tend to use the high street on a race day, or the local community will tend to use it during the daytime. But we want to improve that for local businesses. And therefore, through development, attract the independents, cafes and restaurants. We want to provide a new community hub that will support the local community for various activities and groups that they have, which are potentially not undertaken in this immediate area because of the lack of space. And we want to have a community square for outdoor events and markets. So, for example, the racecourse currently has an agreement in place for the local farmers market, which takes place in our car park. But actually, it would be really nice if we had a proper community square where that could be undertaken, and that would also enable local businesses to benefit from that as well. We want to have an outdoor community square and for outdoor events in the markets in the new village green, and improve connectivity between north and south of the high street. So over the last 2 years, we have worked to deliver an illustrative master plan which has been incorporated into our development brief, which basically responds to the feedback through the community engagement and workshops that we've undertaken with the parish council, with the local neighbourhood plan group, and local community members. And what we've decided upon was to deliver up to 300 new homes, 109 being north of the high street, and that site is Ascot's site. We have taken aspiration from work that has been undertaken in Poundbury, which is part of His Royal Highness's vision for the development of Poundbury. So that is identified through delivering a crescent and a lot of open green space for people to enjoy when when we finally land this development. South of the High Street, on the west corner, we saw that as a good opportunity for delivering an improvement to the high street, so new shops and creating activation on the high street for people coming into the area, and also bookmarking, so people know when they've actually arrived at the high street. It's very easy to drive straight through and not see where the start and end of Ascot High Street actually is. And as part of this development, it includes 30% affordable, which is to respond to national and local planning policy requirements. Within our car park 6 as well, we've also looked at providing a new nursery. Obviously, as what we want to achieve is, families being able to move in to be able to afford to live in the area. So supporting that with a nursery is something that is important to us. Okay. This is a visual representation of the Illustrative Master Plan. So this is the roundabout at Station Hill. So at the moment we've got quite a congested roundabout, so we would look to make improvements along the high street, widening the thoroughfare for cars and widening the pedestrian route south of the high street for people to walk and enjoy. And to provide a mix of retail units and business space to attract new businesses into the area. And this is a visual representation of the village square, which is quite important for us in terms of the green network and connection to the to north of the high street as well. And again, this is just some images to show you the illustrations that we have delivered as part of our development brief and work that we put together as part of our consultation. Okay, so I'm skipping through these quite quickly. And this just gives you a visual representation looking east to west along the high street. Okay, just wanted to move on to some facts and figures. Okay, so this is where I'm asking for some audience participation. Appreciating it's kind of mid-afternoon, probably everyone's had some cake and a coffee and might be feeling a little bit tired in the afternoon. So just wanted to open to the audience. How many people come to Royal Ascot every year? Does anyone would like to take a guess? Over the 5 days? Any idea? No? Okay, so we have 300,000 people will come to Ascot over the 5 days. So as the week goes on, most people recognise Ladies' Day, which is actually Gold Cup Day, where we had the greatest attendance of around 70,000 people. In terms of consumption, would anyone like to hazard a guess at how many bottles of champagne we consume, or everyone consumes here during Royal Ascot Week? It's in the tens of thousands, so would anyone like to have a go? 80,000? Say lower than that. Any others? 60, that's closer. So we actually have around 51,000 bottles of champagnes consumed. In terms of Pimm's, anyone? Jugs of Pimm's? No? Sorry? 160,000 jugs of Pimm's are consumed on average. And I'll just go through these ones. So we have around 5,000 kilos of salmon consumed throughout the 5 days. About 10,000 Angus steaks are consumed. And in terms of staffing, as I said to you earlier, we have around 200 people that work for us on a full-time basis. Obviously, accommodating 300,000 people over the 5 days. Would anyone like to think of, give me a guess on how many people they think actually work here during Royal Ascot Week? No? Sorry? 1,000? Okay, it's actually 6,500 staff come here during the 5 days. We have also in that we have 3,000 cleaners working on 24-hour cycles. So, you know, just to give you a flavour, so if you think about from when gates open at 11 o'clock in the morning, the teams have already been in probably since 6 o'clock, the main teams, the core teams. And when people leave at the end of the day, all the work begins to put everything back into place, repair damage that might have occurred during the day, tidy up all the rubbish, make everything, you know, sparkling, ready for the next day. So there's an awful lot that we do behind the scenes. In terms of vehicles, we have around 400 helicopters that land at Royal Ascot every year. We actually have a helicopter landing site which sits east of the Wakefield Road, which is an area called Lower Farm. And we have around 600 limos that will take people across to the site here during that week. And we have around 100 horses that race each day. So, you know, all in all, it's a massive event. It's obviously the biggest one that we work to. Adrian and I, you know, would really like to have been here probably for the whole of today, but because of the pressures that we're under in terms of delivering the projects that we deliver ready for Royal Ascot Week, you know, it takes a lot of time and effort for us to do that. But, you know, as I said, it's a great pleasure to be working here. So just wanted to finish with any questions.